Yeah, my name is Alan Owen. I am the founder of Lab Rats International, which is stands for the Legacy of the Atomic Bomb, um, recognition for atomic test survivors. I am the son of a nuclear test veteran, James Ronald Owen, who was present at the British test, a joint operation with the Americans in Christmas Island in 1962 called Operation Dominic, and my father saw 24 nuclear tests in 78 days. So I founded LabRats a few years ago after being chairman of the British Nuclear Test Veterans Association to bring awareness to the world of the legacy of nuclear testing and the fact that we do not want these weapons anywhere in the world and we need to get rid of them. So we became an ICANN partner, and we now have the TPNW in place, the Treaty on Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. So we are leading the organizations across the world in the veterans' stories. So the veterans who actually saw these weapons explode, the atmospheric testing and the underground testing, and they've all been involved. So we are promoting their story, as well as the indigenous people whose lives have been affected forever, the tribes in Australia, the Gilbertese people and the Marshallese people in the Pacific. Our area of expertise really is around the nuclear tests and how they've affected the planet, how they've affected the world, the people, the ecosystems, and the history of the nuclear testing right from the very first Manhattan Project all the way through to the testing across the world. Not many people understand how much testing happened in a short space of time, just around the 50s and 60s. And a lot of people don't understand that that carried on into the 70s and that Britain tested until 1991 in the Nevada desert. So it's not ancient history. And the effects that it had on not just the servicemen, but the planet itself, that's where our expertise is. And we are using this for the TPNW and victim assistance, and are helping organizations around how we implement the victim assistance part of the TPNW. We would base them on the testing program and how the weapons have been developed over time and how they were tested, where they were tested, the effect that it's had on the indigenous people, the effect that it's had on the servicemen, the scientists, and to give more of a history lesson so that people understand how these weapons were developed. A lot of people know about Hiroshima and Nagasaki for obvious reasons, but even in the UK where I'm sitting now, not many people understand that Britain tested 45 nuclear weapons, atmospheric tests, and did over 600 other so-called minor trials where they were exploding plutonium in the desert in the middle of Australia, in Maralinga and Emu Field. And this is the area that my expertise is in, and I would give a lecture on if for anybody that's interested in the development of nuclear weapons and the testing program. Both. Anybody that's interested in the subject, I'd love to mentor anybody that's interested in the subject. We've got lots of material, we've got lots of experience, and we can call on the veterans themselves to help. Their testimony, there isn't very many of them left that can say they actually witnessed a nuclear explosion and have lived to tell the tale. And this is a unique bunch of men, and these people have a great story, and yeah, we'd love to mentor them, because to listen to their story, listen to my story as a descendant, what my father went through, is brilliant, because they get to know exactly what happened at the tests and how it felt for these guys. It started about 10 years ago. My father, unfortunately, is no longer with us. He died young, and he died in 1994. And I met a veteran at an open day and started talking to the veteran about what he was doing. He was at Christmas Island as well, but at a different time, 5 years before my father went. And he actually said to me, he's either got illness or he's dead. And I said, unfortunately, he's dead. And that's when I got interested in the subject, because I didn't know much about it. My father didn't talk about it. So I've been involved since then, getting involved in helping raise awareness, say being chairman of a charity, now founder of this organisation, which is bringing the world together, because I didn't know myself, and I was a descendant. I had a direct link to the testing program. So to find out about the Marshallese, the Gilbertese, the indigenous tribes of Australia, how it affected their lands, how it affected their lives, how it affected the servicemen, the civilians, the scientists, and people from Fiji were involved in British tests, New Zealand, Australia. The list is endless. So it was really interesting for me as well, on a geographical, scientific, and a historical, to see that really they'd been airbrushed from history. So it's not taught in our schools in the UK. It's not taught in schools in America. Nagasaki and Hiroshima is taught as history. But if you were to be taught about nuclear testing, there's nothing. Most people don't even know that you did it in the UK. So it's our aim to get the message out there as much as possible and get these guys put back into history where they need to be. And that's my goal, really. That's what I got involved with, is to make sure that they're not forgotten, and that the part that they played in the Cold War, because it was a race, it was a nuclear race, is not forgotten. Because without them, we wouldn't have the nuclear deterrence that we have today. Whether you agree with them or not, they wouldn't be here. So it was a race, and they helped to make sure that the UK was a nuclear superpower. The Americans did the same, Russia, everybody else did the same. And we need to make sure that they are put back into history. A lot of them sacrificed a lot, and are still sacrificed afterwards with problems and health problems and issues that they've had. So we work with the veterans and we work with the descendants to raise awareness and to make sure that they are not forgotten and that they are raised to a level where they should be. My career path is actually in IT. I'm actually an IT professional. I was an IT consultant. But as I got more and more involved with the organisation and the nuclear test veterans, more of my time was spent with the nuclear test veterans. And that's one of the reasons that we set up LabRats as a worldwide, after meeting with a gentleman called Keith Kiefer, who is the national commander of the National Association of Atomic Veterans in America. And listening to their stories, I went to their conferences and found that this was a bigger issue, a worldwide issue. And that's one of the reasons for setting it up. It was so that we could put everything in one place, where there are all the frontline communities that are working together. There's downwinders, there are people who've been affected by uranium mining, all the way through from digging the uranium to weapons production, to testing, to the deterrence that they have now. So it was a big subject, and there was nowhere where there was a central point of focus. So we created our academy website and our main website, where there was a central point of focus where people could go to, and they could listen to videos, they could listen to the testimonies of the people who actually witnessed it, plus they could get historical facts and accurate information about the testing program. So that's where I've ended up. And it wasn't by choice, or it was just that I had the expertise from an IT background to be able to do it. And I was connected to them, the test, because my father was the test veteran. So that's how we've got here. And I use my expertise as a trainer to do speeches and to talk to people about the testing program, and to use the IT skills to create like our academy online, so that it's always there forever. They should care, because it's affected all of us in some way. The current threat in Ukraine, with Putin threatening his use of nuclear weapons, even though he hasn't used them, he's using it as a threat. These nuclear weapons are here, they're staying at the moment. We need to get rid of them. Personally, I want to get rid of them, and a lot of the public wants to get rid of them. But they are here, and they are being used politically. There is a lot of money being pumped into the nuclear weapon deterrent just to have them, but they haven't been used since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The US is the only country that has used them in wartime. But developments carry on. The weapons now are much more powerful than they were before. The development has gone on and on and on, and now there are thousands of these weapons. The whole planet could be wiped out in an instant. If they were all launched together, we would not be here. It would be gone. Everything that we know would be gone. And the public need to be made aware of the fact that these weapons exist, and they're in the hands of some people who could use them if they wanted to. And the fact that they need to be eradicated, that's the key thing for us now, is we don't want anybody else, like our veterans have seen them explode. They've seen the mushroom cloud, they've felt the heat, they've felt the blast, they've experienced it firsthand. Nobody needs to see that ever again. And that's why the public needs to care, because there are people who are affected by it now. There's generations like myself that have got health issues. There are people who are living on Christmas Island, on the Marshall Islands, who have got health issues. There is a gigantic dome on Eniwetok. This dome was created by the Americans, and it's called Cactus Dome. And the dome contains radioactive material, and it's on a coral island just capped with concrete. And that was done in the 70s. We all know that concrete doesn't last as long as it needs to be to house that radioactive material. That could seep into the ocean. We need to know, and the public needs to be made aware of this, so that they are aware of the dangers of this material and what can happen, and that this material will be around for hundreds of thousands of years. It's not something that just lasts 5-10 years, it's hundreds of thousands of years. Its half-life is massive, and it will be here for generations to come. If that dome was to split or leak, and that leaks into the ocean, it will affect everybody, and we can't have that happening. So there are lots and lots of issues with the nuclear weapons and testing, and obviously the security aspect and everything else, and the threats. So it's a big subject, so the public should care, because it will affect them, and it'll affect them all. The current trend is the build-up again of a nuclear weapons arsenal. The UK were going to enhance their nuclear weapons arsenal. Russia are threatening with their nuclear weapons arsenal. There is new nuclear submarines being developed in a joint with Australia, UK and America. And the fact that these weapons are still here, we know the destructive power of them. You only have to Google it, you can see the destructive power of these weapons. And yet we still continue to invest. We still have companies who invest in it. People make a lot of money out of these nuclear weapons development. And we don't want them. We don't need them. They don't need to be retested. There's missile launches from North Korea. There is Putin threatening his use of nuclear weapons. We don't need them at all. That's the big issue for us, is that we want them eradicated. We want them gone. And we need to be able to do that. We need the countries to sit down and talk and sign the TPNW and work together on this total eradication of the weapons. They're just being used by other people as bully boy tactics to, I've got a bigger arsenal than you have, and I'm not afraid to use it. And we can't have it, because it would destroy the planet if they were used. So our goal is to make sure that the veterans are not forgotten because of what they did with the testing program, and then for them to say, yes, we've developed them. They are the worst ever weapon of mass destruction that's ever been created, and that we need to eradicate them. We did it, we've done it, but we shouldn't use them, and we shouldn't have them. They should be eradicated.